Yo, what is up, guys? And as promised, here is my first month of streaming and how it went. So overall, pretty much everything that could go wrong went wrong. Lots of stuff to talk about here. We're going to be going over, what went wrong for starters. How much I earned in my first month of being a streamer, as well as, personal goals, and then what we can expect from the future, and what we're going to swap up and change and try in the coming weeks and months, to see how we can kind of, min-max this a little bit, and kind of give you guys an idea of a little bit of behind the scenes and how it all felt to do, and, what my take is so far as a full-time streamer and content creator. Okay. So first of all, I just want to talk a little bit about what went wrong. So first of all, on my personal side of goals, I had a lot of goals to do with IRL videos, which I was really keen to do, as well as, weight loss goals and fitness goals. All of these has basically been completely iced for the most part due to the fact that COVID has seen a massive resurgence in Australia, and there's a lot of cases popping up all around the nation, and that's caused our government to put us into a pretty strict lockdown. We got a curfew and all sorts of stuff like that. So the gyms are going to be closed for the foreseeable future, it seems, and I only managed to get about 1 week of working out in. Which is a bit unfortunate, but it is what it is. You take what you get, and that's what we got this time. All right, so that was strike one on the unlucky scale. It is what it is. But the thing that really made me a little bit sad is that the business side of things, on the streaming side of things, the game I play, Path of Exile, it releases quarterly expansions, which I'm sure a lot of gamers watching this are aware of. And these expansions are generally very, very well received. They receive record-breaking numbers pretty much every single season. They're essentially expansion packs on a 3-month cycle. And this particular cycle, though, it seems that most people weren't too happy with the expansion pack released, and it was the worst performing one in many, many years. I think the number was around 40% less players than average compared to past leagues or expansion packs, and that definitely was a little bit of a blow to my confidence and potentially a little bit of momentum here that we were building up. So that was unfortunate. Definitely does sting a little bit. It is what it is. You take what you get. It's just these two combination of things definitely put a little bit of cold water on the Steam train. But we'll talk a little bit about how I think that affected things and how I'm going to try and mitigate that in the coming months and, maybe even the coming years. So without further ado, let's get into the juicy part, the one that everyone wants to know. How much did I earn, and how does it feel to be a full-time streamer? So I kind of want to recap here. So basically what we're up against here is about a $1,500 monthly expense. I think it's actually realistically a bit lower than that after living through it. When you're not working full-time, you don't need to eat out as much. You don't have to get lunch. You don't have to fuel your car as much. I don't think I've really driven at all, actually. And it's definitely a lot lower than 1,500, but we'll keep it at 1,500. Gives me a bit of wiggle room, and I get to bank the rest, which is pretty nice. And then we were earning around 4,800 net in the income department, which is definitely a competitive wage in Australia. And I was very interested to see if we could, kind of get close to that as a streamer, and what it would take to kind of get to that level. So let's get into the details. So we have up here kind of just like my bank position. This isn't too relevant, unfortunately, because one of the things that I've realized as a content creator already is that the actual payments of your your AdSense and your subscription from Twitch and all sorts of stuff like that, the dates in which you get that are a little bit sporadic and kind of not always consistent. Which, is definitely something to call out there if you're kind of paycheck to paycheck and you're trying to get into content creation. It could be a little bit painful, and you may have to, look into your kind of taking out before pay loans and all sorts of stuff like that. So it's definitely something to consider if you don't have a significant position in your bank to kind of cover the weird parts when you get paid and when you don't. That can definitely be something to definitely be a little bit worried about. Because right now for the month, I actually haven't gotten paid from YouTube just yet. So there's definitely a big fat balance there waiting to clock over, which I'm interested to see how much will actually come through from that, because You obviously don't get paid the amount that it shows you on your analytics dashboard. It's always a little bit different. It's like adjusted. It's like up or down depending on how much it actually came in at and finalized at. You've got stuff like exchange rates. So the numbers that are actually going to end up in the bank account are something that I'm going to be monitoring fairly closely. And the numbers below, I imagine, will probably go down a little bit, or will be a little bit different. But let's talk about that now. So we got a 2K positive here. That's the result of trickle kind of income from investments, as well as a final payout of around $850 from my job, and then also I did get paid. From Twitch around $1,500 of the $2,300 that we have listed here. So it is coming in, but it comes in at weird staggering points, and this number here shouldn't be too relevant. It obviously will be in the long term, but right now we're going to try and choose to ignore it, and we'll go straight on to the next part here, which is the earnings, how much I'm projected to make for the month. So this one here, essentially what I've gone in, and I've just looked at my dashboards and my analytics, and I've kind of gone from the 19th to the 17th, which is 1 month. And I've basically gone, how much should I earn in this window according to the different platforms? So for Twitch, that number was $2,324. This is made up of Twitch Prime subscriptions, paid subscriptions, ad revenue, and all sorts of stuff like that. I think it's also worth noting that I don't have any sort of organization or anything that I'm with, so I'm just on the kind of standard Twitch setup. And that's the number that came in there for me. So already we're sitting pretty okay, just based on the Twitch numbers here. This is all before I've been to my accountant, so I'm not entirely sure how this is all going to work with tax and claiming stuff and all sorts of stuff like that. We'll talk about that probably in later videos after I do my tax return. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure how this is all going to shake out. This is the kind of raw number before tax is taken out. So you could definitely expect this to go down a significant amount, in the long run. Okay, so that's Twitch. Next up, we have YouTube. So YouTube said it came in around 2,805 Australian dollars. That's kind of what it's saying it is. I don't know if it'll end up being that, of course, but I won't repeat that anymore. So that's definitely, again, a reasonable sum, and definitely does cover my living expenses, at least for this month, well and truly. So that's definitely a relief to see that, we're going okay on the YouTube front here. Next up, we have donations. So donations are a bit of a unique one. This is essentially an option on my stream that I have for individuals who really want to support the stream and want to kind of a direct line into making sure that they make a difference. And it's kind of set up to go directly into a PayPal account. This is allowed on Twitch, but it does bypass the Twitch cut. Which is a bit interesting, and it does end up being more lucrative for the streamer. So I'm very grateful. This number is, in my opinion, probably going to be significantly lower by about, I would probably expect 10 times lower in the months to come and the years to come, as I believe a lot of it was just people coming out to show their appreciation, wish me well, and try and help me get on my feet and make sure that I don't completely fall on my face. And I really appreciate all of those donations that people did give me, but I imagine this number is definitely going to go down significantly moving forward, but I do appreciate all of that support from all of those donators. So this is kind of the breakdown here. You can see that a large majority of the money does come from YouTube, but when you add Twitch and the donations together, that actually outstrips YouTube. But when we get into the kind of more breakdown side of things, you'll kind of understand that YouTube does end up being the more lucrative one for your time invested. But we'll get into that in just a minute here. So I do have two other sections listed here: sponsors and Steam. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this here because I think it's cool to allude to what's coming next. So sponsors are essentially things that you can overlay as additional revenue streams on top of your YouTube, on top of your Twitch, and any other platform that you want to have. And I am currently signed with a sponsor that will come into effect next month. I have no idea how that's going to shake out. Unfortunately, I'm unable to disclose how much the amount is for or the exact details because it's in the contract. But I'm sure you guys will see that on my stream coming up. It is one that I actually probably want to talk a little bit about here. So the sponsor I decided to sign with initially is NordVPN, and they will be sponsoring me for 1 month initially, and they have an incredibly flexible contract. It's definitely the most generous and the most freeform contract I've seen to date. And my kind of stance on this is that I'm never going to promote anything in which I wouldn't use myself. And the terms of this contract essentially only ask me to promote the product in ways that I feel comfortable. And for NordVPN, it's essentially that all they want me to say is that you can unlock region-restricted services for stuff like, like Netflix, Crunchyroll, and stuff like that. And that's what I use VPNs for primarily anyway. And I've had Nord myself now and used it, and I pay for it myself. It's not like I got it for free. So I'm pretty comfortable sponsoring things which I think are a value add, and I would realistically pay for myself in the long term. So I'm pretty comfortable with that. And if it's going to help me, kind of do what I love, I think it's a pretty reasonable thing to have on your stream or on your YouTube videos. Overall, as long as it's not at the detriment or the deception of your audience or the viewers, I think it's actually a pretty good thing to have, and it takes a lot of the pressure off of people subscribing and donating and directly supporting you. And I think that in the long run, sponsors are probably the best way to monetize your content creation. And I'm going to be looking into ways to make sure that's not intrusive and not deceptive, but also maintaining a pretty good position. The other one here is Steam. I might actually leave this until we got a little bit more info on here, but I will be doing a little bit of action and diversifying my revenue and income streams with Steam at some date coming up, and we'll talk about that maybe when we have a little bit more information on that one. But yeah, sponsors are definitely something that you'll probably see in month 2, and I think that they are definitely something you should be looking into if you want to get into content creation. And you have a reasonably sized audience in which you can kind of be able to reach out to these people. I guess to give you guys a little bit more information, I actually am working with a sponsorship kind of a company. It's called AFK Creators, and they've been pretty fantastic. I'm a complete sponsor noob, so I'm not sure if I'm getting ripped off or anything like that, but the deal sounded pretty reasonable to me. I ran it past a few of my other streamer friends, and it sounded okay as well. So I definitely think that they've done a pretty good job. They handled all the negotiations for me. So, if you're an aspiring streamer or if you're a streamer already, it might be worth looking into, buddying up with an agency if that does work out for you. But definitely do your research first and definitely look into it. But yeah, you'll probably see a number pop up here. I might have to roll it into donations to kind of make sure I don't violate the terms and service of my contract, but we'll definitely be looking at that there. So all up, the total earnings for this month before tax and before adjusted revenue on YouTube and Twitch is 5,941 Australian dollars. So that's definitely significantly higher than I was earning at my corporate job, which is, pretty cool. Definitely a big fan of that one. Of course, it was a very, very hyped up period of the game that I played though. And this is, in my opinion, one of the biggest factors that you have to take into account when streaming a game. You're going to have basically a sporadic income based on the interest in your game. So if you're playing a game and tons of people are interested in it, you're going to get significantly higher views on all of your content across the board. As that interest starts to fade away, of course, the earnings and the views will also start to fade along with it. And pretty much every single portion of your income is based off of how many views you get on each and every one of these platforms. So I fully expect that my revenue is going to completely tank in month 2 and 3 until we get another spike of interest in the Path of Exile genre and game, and then it's going to come back up. I'm not entirely sure how much it's going to tank. I wouldn't be surprised if it tanks anywhere between 6 to 10 times. But I think I'm still in a reasonable position at that point, and I'm still happy with my decision to move to a full-time streamer. The reason for that is, tentatively, we already pretty much covered our expenses for the following 3 months. So, the total earnings we have here divided by 3 is already more than enough to cover my monthly expenses. As we discussed earlier, they're conservative amounts as well. So, if I need to cut a little bit of dollars here and there, I can do so. So we're already pretty much in the clear, even if I earned nothing for the following 2 months, which in my opinion is not going to happen. Of course, you'll earn some amount, even if it's lower. But it'll be definitely very, very interesting to see how much the income will come down in the following months and then come back up as we move forward with the 3-month cycle that the game I play is in. So yeah, pretty interesting. I'm definitely keen to see how much the sponsors also mitigate some of that that kind of downturn. But yeah, very, very cool and interesting to see that. So that's kind of the financial side of things there, guys. Hopefully you guys have got a bit of an interesting point of view there. I don't think that you should dive into content creation for the money. I don't think that it's necessarily going to be the most lucrative thing in the world immediately. And you definitely do need to scale to a certain size in order to make it worth it. But if I wanted to do a complete direct apples to apples comparison for this month, specifically as a slice, I worked around 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month at my other job. So 8 times 5 times 4. So it's 160 hours. So that's, divided 4,781 divided by 160. So that's definitely, that's about $29 an hour, pretty all right. So if you actually add up all the time that I have here, though, 155 hours just off the bat streaming this month, that's already well and truly below. So I think I did work quite a lot harder at this than I did at my full-time job. It's absolutely no question. And there's a lot of hours where you're thinking about stuff, replying to messages and all sorts of stuff like that, which you don't count either. So all up, I wouldn't be surprised, if I ended up working well over 230 hours this month. But I fully expect that to come down as I find increased efficiencies, as well as a more refined process in the future. So that's kind of where we're at with the money side of things. I think apples to apples, if you're only in it for the money, you're better off just sticking with corporate. But if it's something you really, really, truly love, then it's definitely worth doing. And we're going to talk a little bit about how it feels to be a content creator, as well as the kind of other progression that we saw this month on the kind of zoomed out scale. All right. So in terms of YouTube subs, we did actually end up gaining a significant amount. So if we take a look here, we ended up gaining around 3,238 subs, which is pretty good. So if we do that divided by that, we went up almost 10, we went up 7.4% in terms of our subscriptions on YouTube. That's a pretty big gain. Definitely pretty happy with that. And in terms of the weight loss department, we lost 3 kilograms, which is also a pretty nice one as well there. That one's been very, very difficult actually. Maybe I'll have to do a video on that at some point. But that definitely takes a lot of mental determination to rewire your habits. Was definitely pretty tough there. So in the video release department, this one is definitely a lot harder. So I expected to make around 50 videos a month. This was crazy talk. In terms of actually releasing that amount of content while also streaming, it's completely unsustainable for me at least. And kind of setting that pace would have set me up for destruction, especially in the long term. Kind of coming up with that amount of ideas, then making that amount of content just leaves no room to breathe and kind of live your life at all, really. So I'm going to be cutting that down, that video release number down to around 20 to 30, somewhere in that ballpark. I'd like to release a video per day if I can, but I'm not going to beat myself up too much if I miss a day here or there. But yeah, it's going to be the 20 to 30 range, and we'll see how that goes. It seems like that's basically how much I naturally made anyway. We got about 29 videos in here, and that was definitely plenty of meat on the bone in terms of the earnings there. So I'm going to shoot for that around that amount as well, kind of moving forward there. In terms of the hours streamed, this is a ton of hours streamed in terms of the stream department. I think moving forward, I'm going to experiment with different amounts streamed here. I still don't have a set stream schedule. Overall, this is definitely something I want to lock in, but I'm still experimenting with times and trying to find out what fits best for me. Right now, I'm thinking about kind of streaming somewhere around the 5 to 7 p.m. time on Australian time, and I'm not entirely sure for the duration yet either. But yeah, definitely going to be a lower amount of hours streamed moving forward. How many that will be is still up in the air. In terms of the Twitch subscriptions, I've just got a few numbers here so you guys can kind of keep track of it. We'll compare these in future months. So overall, that's going to be the recap in terms of actual raw information. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about how it feels now to kind of round it out. I know this is getting kind of long. We're already up to 20 minutes, but my channel, my IRL channel, my rules. So in terms of how it feels to be an IRL streamer, just a streamer in general, it's definitely it's definitely more difficult than I would have expected. It takes a tremendous amount of discipline to basically not have to get up in the morning, but still be productive and still do things that generate, an income so that you can survive. I definitely think that schedule and, kind of having some expectations for yourself is incredibly important. And making sure you set them up and make sure they're efficient is definitely worth it. So moving forward, I'm going to try and make sure I set myself a schedule. It doesn't need to be rock solid because, the reason I stopped my job is because I hated schedules. But I'm going to try and fit in, a reasonable amount of scheduling. And I think that's going to make things a lot more easy, if you can just, wake up, do your stuff, and then check out and do whatever you want. And that's kind of the lifestyle I wanted to live. In terms of the actual doing of the job though, like making videos, coming up with ideas for videos, doing the stream itself, I absolutely love it. Compared to my corporate job in which, I didn't want to wake up in the morning, I didn't want to do it, I didn't have fun doing it, it's the complete polar opposite. I really, really enjoy talking to Twitch chat, interacting with people. It's an absolute blast, and I can confidently say that after every single day at work, I'm very, very happy about what I achieved, and, hanging out with everyone is definitely very fun. The only thing that really does sting a little is the absolute swings and roundabouts you get with kind of like the amount of viewers you have, the amount you earn in a stream, how well a video does. That definitely is incredibly mentally taxing. But I think once you get to a certain stage in which, you can kind of just mentally just average it out, that is probably going to go away a little bit. And I hope it goes away. But at the end of the day, as long as there's food on the table, as long as there's a roof over my head and I'm enjoying my life, it doesn't really matter how much I'm earning, in my opinion. And I think that it's definitely pretty important to kind of keep that perspective and lock it in and not get too caught up in the actual moment of, what's going on, how much you're earning and all that sort of stuff like that, how many viewers you have and stuff like that. So I'm going to try and make sure I keep my blinders on when it comes to that, but it is good and important to reflect. In terms of whether I regret my decision, absolutely not. And I think if this is any indication of how things are going to go in the future, we have a pretty positive future ahead. If this is one of the worst leagues, I'd love to see what one of the best leagues is going to look like in terms of growth and, earnings. And I absolutely love the freedom to kind of chop, change, and, invent different ways to do your job. It's very, very, very liberating to be able to have complete autonomy and control over, what you want to do, how you want to do it, when you want to do it, and why you want to do it. So as I mentioned earlier, if I want to take a sponsor, I can. If I don't want to, and I don't need the money, I cannot do that. If I want to do something and experiment with, a different field, whether that's making a Steam game or making another YouTube channel to do like game reviews or something like that, that is all on the table. And you can kind of carry on some of your legacy of some of your other content into that. So, that's probably why a lot of people are watching this video in the first place, because you know me from a different platform. So overall, I think summing it up, don't regret quitting my job at all. Very excited for the future. Absolutely loving it so far. Definitely a few problems to solve. But I just want to thank everyone for the support. And if you're watching here, I really appreciate you coming on the journey with me. Hope you guys are enjoying the update. And if you have any questions at all or want to know anything about anything that's going on here, definitely drop me a comment below. I'll probably reply on my main account, but I'm replying nonetheless, and I read every single one. So definitely let me know. And with all that said, guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.